Made in LA, directed by Almudena Carrasado, focuses on the idea of revolt and anger in terms of protest. The film follows a trio of women, Maria, Mara, and Lupe, working in the Los Angeles garment industry as they protest for fair labor laws alongside the Garment Workers Center. The three women are undocumented immigrants from El Salvador and Mexico who work in the garment industry where they are paid roughly $3 an hour for endless hours of labor. The narrative takes place over the span of 3 years, leading up to 2007, while the boycott of a popular retail store, Forever 21, occurs. The film follows the events leading up to the protests themselves, and the ultimate decision following the protests. Made in LA focuses on each of the aforementioned women in terms of their contributions to the boycotts and the impact the protests had on their personal lives. In Revolting Subjects, Imogen Tyler focuses on the formation of social objection experienced by marginalized groups, allowing us to see Made in LA through this particular lens. As explained in Revolting Subjects, the women featured in the film are considered abject, and therefore their contributions to society are overlooked. At first, this meant the work they put into the garment industry, but later meant their protesting efforts. As a result, the protests shown in the film are disregarded and extended for absurd periods of time. Audre Lorde's The Uses of Anger, Women Responding to Racism, is additionally useful to the analysis of Made in LA because she elaborates on the role women play in revolts. This piece brings to light the anger that results in protests, specifically the anger coming from women of color. She considers anger to be a means to serve progress and change, but also reminds readers that society expects women of color to be careful in expressing their anger. Carasado's Made in LA documents the stories of three women of color who, after facing massive oppression in their protest, prove that revolt works as they ultimately overcome the oppression imposed upon them by society. Month 4 of the Forever 21 boycott begins about 27 minutes into the film. There is a brief sequence where Lupe provides a voiceover that corresponds to her holding a sign.
En las protestas nadie te mira que seas menos, porque seas un simple trabajador. Te hacen sentir como que por primera vez eres importante.
The shot only focuses on the incredibly human aspect of Lupe, placing her in the center of the frame. The lighting makes her glow, and she appears genuinely happy. It is in slow motion, which places even greater emphasis on Lupe, as she reminds viewers that more than anything, she is human and deserves basic human rights. Throughout the film, she has been portrayed as a migrant, as a child of trauma, and as a protester, to the point where her humanity is beginning to be overlooked. The scene uses gentle, uplifting music that reminds viewers that the protesters are excited about the movement, that they will not stand down. As Lupe begins to speak, however, the music is quieted and the viewer only focuses on her words. As she explains how the protest essentially gives her life, the audience only hears her telling us that the protests are the only times that she has truly felt important. If we pause the sequence at the very beginning, we are able to read Lupe's signs reading, "Stop sweatshops," and "Shame on you." The signs are in English, despite Lupe speaking in Spanish, which essentially removes the language barrier between Lupe and those she is speaking to. Tyler explains that each of the chapters in Revolting Subjects explores the dual meanings of objection and revolt as the processes through which minoritized populations are imagined and configured as revolting and become subject to control. Made in LA introduces the issues with the garment labor industry and explains that the women the piece follows have been forced into their position because of their status as refugees. Lupe's above quote reminds viewers that refugees are constantly seen as lesser, or in her words, not important, impacting their self-reflection. Being in a capitalist society, these refugees are forced to find jobs where they can, as the government does not view them as enough of a person to obtain a job with fair pay. The film then follows many more months of protest, where the women remain under a watchful eye. Despite constantly being watched, their protesting efforts do not seem to greatly impact those who are watching them, further exploring Tyler's idea of social objection. Eventually, Loop is hired by the Garment Workers Center and is quick to begin work. She explains that she will use a block tower to better explain the power and control structure to the workers who struggle to understand much of what is happening. The blocks are pretty and colorful, which is a stark contrast to what they are representing. Loop explained that she had struggled to understand what had been occurring when she had first found herself in the garment industry.
Se va a caer. Se va a caer. ¿Y se cayó? ¿Se cayó? Así es la industria de la costura. Si 150,000 trabajadores se unieran, todo esto se acabaría. Entonces, no dejen de sentir que son poderosos y fuertes, porque de verdad sí somos bien poderosos.
There is no non-diegetic audio in this sequence, which differentiates it from the rest of the film. Again, it focuses almost exclusively on Loop's voice, as she explains how the workers essentially hold up the industry. When the blocks fall, the viewer hears them crash, as Loop explains that the power hierarchy would fall with the loss of workers. In the uses of anger, Audre Lorde says, "Anger expressed and translated into action in the service of our vision and our future is a liberating and strengthening act." In the sequence, Loop is teaching fellow garment workers how to articulate their arguments and fears, which makes them much more powerful in terms of revolt. When the powerless becomes more powerful, those who previously had been in a position of power become fearful and more quick to step down. Loop is clearly incredibly passionate about her mission and sparks the same passion in other workers. Loop realizes this and recognizes that she, having worked in the industry, had knowledge and understanding that places her in a position to strengthen the fight. She is quick to jump into action and angry enough to become a servant of change. So how do Loop, Mara, and Maria's identities impact their ability to protest and overcome oppression from society? Imogen Tyler's Wasted Lives explores the idea of social objection and how it helps explain how different groups consider those they deem outsiders as lesser. Too often, this results in hate crimes and unjust laws, however, can result in positive changes around the world, as seen through the success in Made in LA. Revolting Subjects also explores how those who are deemed abject or outsiders are looked down upon in terms of revolt. However, the women in Made in LA take this oppression and turn it into power and drive. Furthermore, Audre Lorde's The Uses of Anger explores the complexity between women of color and anger. Throughout the film, the three women clearly express their anger and frustration with the garment industry and with those who are bystanders to these awful crimes. Lorde's theory examines the role race and gender play into anger and how this anger is used to help create change, as seen in Made in LA. The three women use what society sees as shortcomings to prove that they are powerful and that they can overcome unjust oppression. The film opens viewers' eyes to the struggles placed upon immigrants and women of color, while showing that protests can lead to positive worldly change. Beyond this, the film also shows that people deemed abject are more than valuable to society.